everyone, and welcome to my podcast, Hellman Talks. Today, I'm speaking to someone who has a very unique life. She's the Chief Experience Officer at Billionhands, and she's also an influencer known for her clay shooting, country lifestyle, and she's been able to build a very important personal brand. Some of you might know her as My Shooting Journey, and some of you might know her as Andrea Neira. Andrea Neira, welcome to my podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, and congratulations on your project. I'm following your podcast since your first chapter and I'm loving it.
Yeah, I'm glad. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for hosting us here in your office.
Yes, we're in floor 50 in one of the tallest buildings in Spain, the tallest.
Yeah, very, very impressive. So Andrea, I know that we met a while back when you were living in Sweden. And I remember that back then you were someone that always had a very good attitude towards new things and getting out of your comfort zone. Mm-hmm. Where do you think this comes from?
I think it comes from my family. Mm-hmm. My father and grandfather, they were both doctors at Real Madrid. So I've seen how much pressure they both had to work with. But it also made me think, wow, Dad studied medicine and he ended up working in the best place to be a doctor. So I need to do something like he has done and like my granddad has done. I didn't like maths, so I went towards a different segment, which was law. I'm a lawyer. However, I do not work as a lawyer. I used my law experience and knowledge to put it into marketing. Lawyers speak very well. They're very good in oratory. So I used that to make a career to build a career in marketing.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it must have been very interesting to have family working with Real Madrid. I don't know if you're a Real Madrid fan. Yes, I can imagine that there's a lot of pressure. Do you feel like you want to live up to them or like follow a little bit their steps, even though it's in a different industry?
Absolutely. I think that even if I did not become a doctor, the fact that I've chosen where I've wanted to work and I've always wanted my company to become the Real Madrid of the industry has made me a really good team player, because I would be very proud to tell my dad, hey, Dad, I work in the Real Madrid of marketing or of platforms, which is what I'm doing now.
So it sounds like you learned a lot from them, which must be very nice. And I know that one part of you, which is a little bit like the influencer side, and you've done an amazing job, because I feel like you've been able to build this niche in clay shooting and country lifestyle. Mm-hmm. When you started, did you feel that it was going to be such a big part of your identity?
I was not planning on becoming an influencer. I think the decisions that I made throughout my life led to me having an important brand in the clay shooting industry. But I always think like this, and this is what I always tell people that I work with. The most important thing you need to do if you want to build something big is think big. I've always thought really, really big. So get out of your comfort zone. That was something that helped me a lot. And I'll tell you the story of how I ended up here and with my personal brand and becoming an influencer. It's actually an interesting story because, and I'll start with step number one. So when I was living in Spain, I'm Spanish, I was born here, but a number of circumstances like the crisis in 2008 led my, at the time, boyfriend and myself, we had to move to Sweden. So when we moved to Sweden, I didn't speak the language. I had no experience. I just became a lawyer in Spain, so I couldn't be a lawyer in Sweden. And I saw how everyone that I was meeting, they were starting amazing jobs. They all spoke Swedish. And I thought, gosh, what am I going to do in order to succeed in a country where I am like way behind, the average Swede? And my dad told me, don't go to Sweden, stay in Spain. I have lots of contacts that I can help you with. And I was like, Dad, let me try this and let me try and succeed on my own. And if I don't, I can always come back to Spain. So me thinking big and wanting to become someone in Sweden helped me find my first job in Sweden. And I think that was step number one. So when I found my first job, which was in a magazine, I was just, on the phone selling ads, high pressure. And the type of clients that I had were all CEOs of FT500 companies. So I was talking directly to the CEO of Tommy Hilfiger, Barclays Bank, McDonald's, like really, really interesting people to talk to. So being 8 hours a day talking to these people made me really think big and outside the box.
Was there something that one CEO said that made you be like, okay, this is how I have to change my mindset if I want to become something?
Well, I have 2 or 3 stories that I can probably tell your audience because I learned a lot from them. I remember that I can't say the name of who I was interviewing, but it was the second largest real estate company in Sweden. And they invited me to their offices to interview the CEO. So I got there and suddenly I arrived to the boardroom and then I see this huge table and there was a dolphin at the end of the table.
Oh, no.
Like, it was like a fake dolphin, but it was like this big. And I looked at the dolphin, I looked around me and I was like, what? Like, where's the camera? Is this a joke? So, while I was looking at the dolphin, he came and I shook hands with him and I said, excuse me, do you know you have a dolphin sitting, at the table? And he said to me, well, this is what I always do to people I don't know. And this is the kind of pressure I had, it was like constantly getting challenged, like with these small things with these CEOs. If you hadn't said anything about the dolphin, I wouldn't have let you interview me because there are 2 types of people, those who dare to say things and those who don't. And you dare. So let's have a seat and start the interview. And I was like, what? So that lesson is dare to do things, dare to say what you say. And of course, you need to find a way in which what you want to say, is said politely and everything, but dare to do things. And then the other big lesson that I learned interviewing one of these huge CEOs, they invited me. This was the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company. They were based in Spain, and they were in the restaurant business. He had more than 800 restaurants around the world, and he was a competitor to McDonald's. That's all I can say. And I said to him, look, Mr. So-and-so, how did you get to where you are? Because you're the only shareholder. You have 800 restaurants. Like, how did you do this? And he said to me, well, Andrea, there's only one thing that helped me achieve what I've achieved, and it is to be delusional.
That's a little bit like thinking big also in a way.
Exactly. But I think this is taking things a step further. The fact that you are delusional will make you succeed as well. Of course, I'm not saying you need to go crazy, but think big and be a little bit delusional about your business model. Those are my 2 favorite lessons that I learned from CEOs while I was working at the CEO magazine.
It must have been so interesting to be working with so inspiring people because you learn so much from them. And then there's a lot of things that maybe you were able to follow like they were doing, and also the network that you must have had from that experience.
Yeah, the network was amazing. But the hardest part was the fact that, it was a sales job. So I had to learn the business language that CEOs have, the mindset that they have in order to speak in the same language, because selling to a CEO is not selling to anyone, on the street. They're a lot different. They're sharks.
I feel like that's super important. When you're selling, you have to know your audience because person A might want to be spoken in a different way. So you have to adapt, which is a key for sales.
Yeah. You know what I did when I first started? And this is a lesson that can be applied to anyone who want to do big things and get out of their comfort zone. You can do anything you want in life if you visualize it. So I started doing things, and I'll give you a few tips of things that I was doing in case this helps people grow. But obviously selling in a different language than your mother tongue is tough, and you need to learn the business language really quick. So what I was doing is, when I was offered the job, I only asked for one thing, which was, please sit me next to the person who sells the most in this company.
I like that.
So the CEO who gave me the job sat me next to the best salesman he had. And his name was Stuart. And I remember I remember saying, Stuart, do you mind if I record what you say when you talk to these CEOs? He was like really proud, salespeople are always very, strong. He was like, absolutely. So every day when he picked up the phone to talk to FT500 CEOs, I was recording what he was saying. And when I got home, even though I speak English, I knew I had to take my English to the next level. So I was studying the language that CEOs speak by listening to these recordings, writing down things that I wanted to say in my next call. And that's what also helped me succeed, because, you can go to a new country and speak the language and everything, but you really need to take things further if you want to be different to the rest.
And stand out a bit, because I feel like you did so many good things. Like, yes, you were very successful from a corporate standpoint, but then you were also very successful from this influencer / play shooting that you were doing.
Yeah, I'll get to that story, that part of the story, which is really funny, actually. Yeah, actually, I think that's a good story that we can link to my job there. So at the time, I was no influencer. I was just working there, making sure that I was selling in the magazine and, climbing the career ladder. I was talking to a lot of CEOs who were in the financial industry. And I don't know if people know this, but there are still many CEOs in the financial industry who love to go hunting, love to go clay shooting, and they spend a lot of time in the countryside. So I was getting these invitations to this very VIP clubs to do clay shooting, corporate shoots and so on. And I had never held a gun in my life. Like, my dad is a doctor, health, running, football, but guns, what? So I was not born into the clay shooting or hunting world, but my husband was. And he was always pushing me to, go hunting with him. And I was like, oh, that's not for me. But then one day, my husband's uncle, who gave us a voucher, which said, this is a voucher worth a clay shooting lesson in the club where, the king and all the VIPs shoot in Stockholm. I was like, well, let's do something different. So we went there, and I thought, okay, I'm doing this, number one, to be with my husband when he goes hunting. So, it's a bit more fun instead of just me sitting there at home, and we can hunt together. And number two, if I continue getting these invitations, I can take my sales to the next level, because I can spend time with my clients outside of the office.
Build a stronger relationship.
Exactly. And if this is what they like to do, I'll do it. So I went into the club, I took the clay shooting lesson, and my instructor, Stefan, he saw how I broke 24 clays out of 25 in my first round. And he looked at me and said, have you shot before? And I was like, no. Okay, this is not normal. You need to come here, next weekend, and you need to take this seriously because you're really good at it. And I was like, this is what he says to everyone, so he gets more clients. But the reality is that I really took it seriously, and I was taking lessons from Thursday to Sundays. And here is how I became an influencer. While I was training and going to the club from Thursdays to Sundays, I was talking to my peers. I remember asking one of them, when did you start shooting? Because you shoot amazing. And he said to me, oh, with my granddad when I was 15. And I was like, my gosh, I'm 30. I'm going to have to wait 30 plus years to get to his level. No way. So what did I do? I went home. I Googled top 20 clay shooters in the world. I opened up an Excel file. I add their names. Next to their names, I thought, how can I contact these people? And then I thought, well, Instagram. has an amazing tool called direct messages. So I'm going to write their Instagram handles next to their names in the second Excel column. And I'm just going to record every single time I shoot, send it in a DM and ask for tips. And some of them replied, some of them didn't. And those who replied, some of them reposted it to their social media. I started posting every day. And I remember the day that I went viral. I posted a picture of me holding the gun after a session. And because I shot really well, my instructor gave me a cigar as a reward. He was like, Andrea, you deserve a cigar with the boys today. So I lit the cigar and I just took a selfie. And the next day,
I remember that.
Yeah. And the next day, like, I think I had like 2,000 followers more. And I was like, what is this? So I started, learning about what does becoming an influencer really mean. And I took it seriously. And today I've collaborated with brands such as Bentley. They took me to the UK to do like a tour in their factory. And I've done amazing collaborations with the likes of Holland Cooper, Spanish brands like El Ganso, for example, El Corte Inglés, André Pavon. So I understood the viewpoint of an influencer very early on when there were not so many influencers. And I've seen the industry grow from an insider perspective. And that gave me the ingredients to be here at Billionhands today, for example.
I mean, first of all, congrats for all the journey that you have done. And I think it's quite admirable that you were like, okay, I want to be better at this sport. How can I do it? Mm-hmm. Let me make a plan. And I think it's quite a creative plan, but it's something that in reality, everybody can do. Mm-hmm. Like I could even do this with the podcast, for example.
Absolutely.
Everybody can apply that to their niche. Mm-hmm. And it's great that you did it and that you all of a sudden, from something being just a hobby, ended up becoming something very big.
Absolutely.
And I mean, you shared one example of something that you did, but do you have another advice for if there's somebody that they have a hobby and they want it to be something a bit bigger?
I can give you a real life example of another project that I've done. So people know me on social media thanks to my shooting journey, but there are some people that know me because I also have another social media channel called La Chica del Marketing, the marketing girl. And I started it because at the previous company where I was working at, GigaPay enables salary payments for influencers. My boss there said to me, Andrea, we're launching in Spain. And you have zero budget, but you need to get your first clients. And I was like, what do you mean I have zero budget? I don't know. Do whatever you want, but we need to launch the business in Spain. So do the marketing plan, do the entire business plan. And then I sat down and I said, okay, let's look at social media. People follow people. People don't follow brands. And I thought I can start doing, small campaigns from the Instagram or LinkedIn that my company has. But if everybody knows who I am, everybody will know that I work at GigaPay. So if you want to start a project, make sure that you start building your own personal brand. And the first thing you need to do is number one, what do you want to achieve? If you know that, in my case, it was, I want clients in Spain. Then open up an Excel and write down, in my case, who my target audience is. And you need to become a James Bond of, your potential clients. So find everything you need to find about them. Because once you find these things out and you put them in an Excel, you have a plan. And I said, okay, I need a personal brand. What can I do in order to have a personal brand? I opened up a TikTok and I opened up a new Instagram account called the marketing girl, La Chica del Marketing.
That is very good. I was actually looking at it last night, and I'll put the at in the description. But I have to say that it's really good. Like you give so good tips that can be applied for so many different areas.
Yeah,
so, it's very good.
And you need to link it to things that you like as well, because then it's going to get boring for you. But so what did I do? I populated my accounts with marketing content so that when these people search for me, they saw that I already had some content. So what did I do next? I have my goal. I have my Excel with the names of the people I want to talk to. I have content so that when they search for me, they know what I do. Next step was to give them a call and say something like this. Hey, so-and-so, I'm Andrea. I have this blog. I work at this company, and the world is moved by egos. So if you have a channel where people can appear, just as you are doing now, 90% of people said yes to the interview. So what happened? I started going to all these interviews. I never talked about GigaPay, the business I was working at. And at the end of the interview, everybody asked me, Andrea, thank you for the interview. By the way, what do you do? And then the GigaPay pitch came, and that's how we started moving the business in Spain with zero budget.
Yeah, well, congrats on that. It's a good challenge to have. It just makes it better.
It's really simple. It's know what you do, the Excel file, and create a channel. It doesn't have to be big. Just have a channel. It's free on Instagram, on TikTok, anywhere.
Mm-hmm. And do you think, because I think that you have a very good personal brand and you've been able to, you've been able to achieve a very good and large audience on social media. Mm-hmm. Do you think that it's important that everybody has their own personal brand?
Yes, and I'm backing this answer on a sentence I love to say, which is, social media will be a commodity. I mean, I think it is already a commodity. Think of it this way. Imagine you're Maria and you're searching for a job. You find a job on LinkedIn, you send your CV, okay, like thousands of other people have done. But if you then send a message to the recruiter and say, hey, I'm not just my CV, here's my portfolio of all the things I've done, and you create a website with the videos you've created, the projects where you've appeared, and if you have a social media channel, people will see, number one, how you look, how you communicate, and if you're able to do the job. So if you're not fit for that job, then okay, to the next. But people and companies, especially now in the AI era, will look for people who know how to use AI, but will know how to communicate. So communicating and having a social media channel should be mandatory, at least for my kids and the kids of your audience. It's something they should learn from a very early age, to communicate and have a social media.
Yeah, I mean, I think you said so many good things there. First of all, communication is so important. But I remember something that you said to me also some time ago, was that having a strong personal brand can be one of your biggest assets and biggest commodity. So working on that is so helpful, as you said. So I really like that idea. And you also touched the point of social media. And something that I'm curious to understand is, because you managed to build a very strong personal brand, you also create content yourself. And then you've also, through the years, you've been able to work a lot behind the scenes to help others in that space. What do you think social media has taught you about people?
About people? Well, number one, that people have really big egos, and not having a big ego will be a good differentiator for you when you start your own brand, because a lot of people get frustrated and they quit. And the second thing is that people want to learn things. If you don't bring something of value to these people, then why should I spend my time on you? I'm watching your channel because I'm learning from the other people you've interviewed. While you interview me or you interview other people, you're learning from our experiences, and you don't know why or how, but at some point, all the things you're learning will be useful for your next project. And I can give you another real life example of what I've learned about people and social media. The company where I'm working now, Billionhands, they needed someone who understood what a super user in a social media app did and how users understood social media. I've been working on TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn since 2020 or 2019. And the fact that I spend a lot of time on social media has given me the knowledge to be able to work in such an amazing project like Billionhands. So it's, I don't know if you guys or if you've watched the Stanford University speech that Steve Jobs gave, where it talks about connecting the points. My entire career has been about connecting the points. I didn't know what points would connect me to what, but now I see it very clearly that becoming an influencer gave me the knowledge to be here. Working at the magazine gave me the knowledge to understand egos and people in order to have a strong personal brand. So everything is connected.
Mm-hmm. I haven't watched that interview, but I'll definitely look at it because it's interesting. As you said, sometimes what you're doing now is preparing you to what you're doing later. Mm-hmm. And in your case, it's very clear what you've managed to do. I really liked also what you said about, first of all, making sure that you're showing people about what things that you can learn, because that's something that I feel like in your Instagram, especially in La Chica del Marketing, I always learn something in that one. And in the one of my shooting journey, I feel like it's also a very, like you have a community because you're showing your family, your friends, your followers. So I think it's very good. And so speaking of digital spaces, now you're working at Billionhands, where you're the Chief Experience Officer. And Billionhands, for those who don't know, it's a new platform where you rank the best of everything from brunch spots to running shoes. Mm-hmm. Can you tell us a little bit about your role and this company?
So as you said, Billionhands is the biggest ranking platform in the world. And in Billionhands, anyone can create a ranking, vote on a ranking participant, or share it with their friends. And you can really rank anything you want, from people to services to products and places. And the project is backed by Nicolás Luca de Tena, which is one of the leading serial entrepreneurs in Spain. And he invested 34 million euros in the platform as it is today, with a lot of AI behind it. So it's not just another platform coming up. It's the next big think, like we like to say it. And basically my role is to make sure that what the president, the CEO, and all the management team think becomes aligned with where we want to be in a number of years, but also making sure that the experience I have as an influencer, and not just as an influencer, but the fact that I am a heavy Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn user has given me the perspective of what makes people want to spend time using platforms.
And because there's something that you said about AI, but I feel like we're surrounded by so many apps and places where people can share and view reviews. What do you hope that Billionhands will do differently?
Well, I think that there are a couple of big differentiators. The first one, which is one of my favorites, is the fact that Billionhands is probably the most positive platform in the world. And I'm not saying this because I work here. I'm saying it because, as I told you before, I've been an influencer on Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn since 2019, 2020, depending on the account. And there's a lot of negativity in social media, but our AI at Billionhands doesn't allow you to create a negative ranking. So that brings something new to the table, which I believe no one is doing at the moment. And for us, that's really important, to have a positive space where both users, but also brands feel safe creating content. And the other amazing thing, which I love about Billionhands, is that it's probably one of the most hyper-segmented platforms that I've seen. And I'll give you an example. We have seen people creating rankings such as the best restaurant in the world, the best restaurant in Europe, the best restaurant in Madrid, or the best restaurant in La Castellana Street. So you're seeing how we are hyper-segmenting and hyper-localizing rankings, we or the users. But the amazing thing is that we and our users take it to the next level. We've seen people making rankings called the best shoes for men over 50 with knee problems. I mean, if a brand needs to target that audience, where can they find that hyper segmentation? For now, that I know, only in that ranking. And we allow brands to target their audiences really, really well.
It's good that you found kind of a place where maybe other platforms weren't really covering, but like, for example, the second example that you mentioned, but something that I really liked is how focused you are on positivity, because I think that it's so important to make people also feel good in a way, because there's a saying that says that people won't remember what you said, but people will remember how you made them feel.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so if they feel good when they're on the platform, I feel like it will have a little bit of like good memories.
Absolutely. I really recommend all of you to have a look at billionhands.com. I find amazing things that I would have never thought of and that I'm really interested in. For example, I love movies, right? And the other day I wanted to find a movie about romance in Tokyo, right? How many movies? I mean, everybody knows about Lost in Translation and so on. But I was like, where can I find this? And then the best movies about romance in Tokyo, I just created a ranking and movies about that topic came up. So I didn't have to think because we use AI to generate the rankings. That's something that it's really important for us and it's another differentiator.
I love how you're using AI because I feel like that's such an important thing to start using everywhere. And it sounds super interesting what you're doing at Billionhands. And I'm sure there will be very exciting growth that the company has. So
absolutely.
Very good to see. And something that I think is quite admirable is how in one side you have this part corporate life, but then at the same time, you're still working on your other part influencer life. Do you have any tips for someone who's trying to balance a full-time job and at the same time a passion project, similar like you?
Yes, don't quit. The most important thing is, I come from a perspective where I've always known what I wanted to do. So I've always been very clear in my goals and how to get there. But there are ways in which people can find what they want to do if they feel lost. I mean, if anyone is watching this interview and they feel lost, the best thing you can do is finish the interview, write something in comments, subscribe to her channel.
Thank you.
But the most important thing is go on ChatGPT and write this. I'm your name and I am your age. And these are the things that I love. I feel a bit lost, but I want to do something big. Ask me the questions that you need to ask me in order to help me find what I want to do and achieve in life. You do that exercise with ChatGPT and it will give you more clarity. There was a sentence I read recently, which was, movement gives you clarity. People who don't know what they want to do, they're just sitting in a never-ending darkness because there's no movement. But you need to move. And even if you're not 100% sure of what you want to do, at least by talking to people and moving, taking action will give you the clarity of, okay, I've spoken to this person has given me these tips. Now I know I want to go this way. But if you just sit in your sofa like a couch potato, nothing will happen in your life.
There's so many things that you said that I loved, like from don't quit. I think that's great. And the movement, because it's better to do something because at least you're maybe getting closer. It's like going to the gym. Maybe you're a bit lazy, but it's better to at least go for 10 minutes than nothing. So I really like that. And something that you said is that you always knew what you wanted to do. You've had an amazing career so far. But when you think about the Andrea of the future, do you have anything exciting that you're working on?
Yes, I want to make sure that every person in the world uses Billionhands, because I became a super user recently and I've seen what a positive, hyper-segmented platform can do in your life. And it has really changed me. I had a situation recently where on my social media channels, on my shooting journey, there's a lot of fuss about who is the best influencer within hunting. And I thought, I want to end this conversation with data. So what did I do? I got on Billionhands and I said to my audience, guys, I'm creating the ranking with the best influencer within hunting of all times. And I posted it on my social media. Everybody went in, they started voting, and now you can go on my ranking and see out of all of the influencers that exist in my niche, who is the best one. I'm not the best one, by the way, if you want to have a look.
You'll get there.
But
though.
you can vote me.
I'm sure you'll get there. But yeah, I mean, it's great. I wish you the best with Billionhands. I'm sure you'll do great. Now, before we wrap up, we have what we call the rapid questions.
Okay.
So I'll ask you 5 quick questions.
Shoot.
And, yeah. So the first question is, what's something that made you smile this week?
Billionhands. I mean, the data that we're getting from my ranking makes me really happy because we're able to test things really quickly because I have an audience outside of my work. That made me really happy.
Yeah, great. Yeah, you have a great audience. And I know that you're also very close to your followers. What's the one word that describes you?
Relentless.
Nice. It's a good word. What's a new skill that you want to learn?
There's a kickboxing place downstairs in Caleido, where very close to where I work. And every time I pass by and I see all these people, you know, like doing kickboxing, I'm like, I think that I need this. So I think I want to learn that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good luck. Next time we speak, maybe you can do a little session.
Yeah.
And I know that you learn Swedish very quickly. So I think that you are quite good with languages.
Thanks.
But do you have a new language that you would like to learn?
I would love to learn Italian, but I can give you a tip for anyone who thinks, oh, I'm not good at languages. I learned Swedish in 9 months, obviously, because I had the pressure of, I don't want to move back to Spain. I want to succeed in Sweden and all that. But those things aside, I learned Swedish really quickly because I listened to Swedish speaking artists on iMusic. And there's an option on iMusic where you can just read the lyrics as the artist talks. So I was learning the lyrics, I was writing them down, and then I was translating them with Google Translate. If you do that for 9 months, I promise you, you will learn any language.
Yeah. I'll try that. I'm trying to learn French a bit.
Okay, good luck.
So maybe I can try that. And also, it's really, French songs are very nice.
Yeah.
So it's maybe a nice task to do.
Yeah.
The last question is, what's the best advice someone has ever given you?
Yeah, it was given to me recently, and it was to never lose my closeness. I love to hug people. I'm always happy, I must say. And, you know, even if things, bad things happen, because all of the time there are bad things happening to you, to people around you, never lose your smile, because if you lose your smile, you lose your spark. So work on that spark, that happiness, and make sure to never lose it. If you have it, great. You just need to maintain it. And if you think you don't have it and you're going through a bad time, find something new. Create a website for a new project, even if it doesn't go anywhere, but that will make you smile so you can transmit that to others.
Yeah, that's something that actually my dad, who's sitting here.
Hi, Ralph.
That's something that he said once. He said, now I start smiling at random people on the street, and I feel like people are nicer to me, which is really good. And I feel like what you said, that you're a very happy person, somehow connects with what you're doing at Billions, because it's a very positive platform. Mm-hmm. So I think it's very good. Like, it's all coming and connecting the dots, which is very good. But yeah, I mean, it's been super interesting hearing a little bit more about your journey and your thoughts. And I'm sure that you're going to do great. Is there anything else in particular that you want to share that we haven't touched yet?
No, I think we've covered pretty much everything. But if there's anyone watching this and they feel a bit lost, don't worry. Go on ChatGPT and make an exercise to get to know yourself better. And the exercise can just be, hi, I feel a bit lost. Ask me the questions you need to ask me in order to help me in XYZ things that I want to achieve. That will help you a lot. And if you're not lost, but you need to, take your business to the next level, smile every day and play music in the car really loud before you get to work. That gives me so much energy every day.
I think we've seen that part on Instagram.
Yeah, I show that on Instagram every day.
Yeah. Well, it's been lovely speaking to you, Andrea. Thank you so much for hosting us in your office.
Thank you.
I wish you the best in your journey. I'm sure you're going to do great.
Likewise.
And,
And subscribe to her channel.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.